And we are live.
I'm going to hit record. The cloud.
On this computer. Great.
Awesome. So we just have there we go.
We are officially started. So if you could just mute yourselves, if you could just be sure to mute yourselves. We are now getting started. Action.
Developing countries, food insecurity looks like a person who is meager and starving.
Something that's really unique in Newark and in urban cities in general is called the growing standard. The obesity epidemic for our children quickly without us really paying attention to it.
Sometimes the work is not even good for it. It's not even bad work. It's detailed. It's all down to the space of the planet. This is an effect. It's all connected.
It's not even what people have room right for.
You have to get on two buses to get to a place that has some healthy options, then that's going to be a deterrent. It's really about the effect of healthy.
While we're with the development of fast food restaurants and everything's getting cheaper and easier, more like you said, that situation, so when that's a similar to money, which is good. And having enough access, we get
the story.
Yes.
Oh, because Emilio said he didn't get the link for the thing.
That's okay.
Is this?
Yep.
Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us again. I'm excited to be here. This is a virtual world, so we're trying to figure out how to do everything with modern technology. So if you didn't get a chance to catch the preview, don't worry. Hopefully the film will come out clearly, and if not, we'll be sure to send out links for everybody to view everything on their own. We've got bandwidth issues, but we're going to make the best of it tonight. I want to thank everybody for being here. My name is Katim. I'm the executive director for Clinton Hill Community Action. I have the good pleasure of working with Renatha here. And for the last 3 months, we have been immersed in work that many of you have been doing for years. And that is trying to address the fact that families in the city of Newark don't have enough food to put on the table on a regular basis. We know that COVID-19 sort of brought this issue to the fore like none before, with folks being out of work, not being able to get to the grocery store, kids being home more than usual. And so we banded together with a number of other community-based organizations in the Clinton Hill neighborhood to try to tackle this issue of food insecurity. Our partners at Greater Newark List came to us with an incredible idea that came right out of the streets of Clinton Hill. They asked the question, how can we be helpful? Folks in the neighborhood said, not only make food accessible to families who need it, but bring it closer to home. And so we started the Care and Share Block Pantry project. And I have to tell you, this project took me for one, because it was so grassroots in nature. We asked residents to operate food pantries out of their homes. And when Renata mentioned this to me after talking to Milan at Greater Newark List, I said, what are you, crazy? How are people going to store the food in their house? How are they going to handle the distribution? What about this? What about that? What about this?
Very skeptical.
Yes, and this is why two minds are better than one, because Renata pushed forward and made this project happen with Keisha, who's our community organizer on our team, and we worked out every kink that came in front of us. But what it allowed us to do was not only provide food to 300 households each week, but it gave us a touch point to talk to folks in the most critical time as we were all dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. And we heard a number of things as we operated the pantry. In addition to the thank yous and the appreciations that folks had to share, they began talking about other needs and ways that we could be helpful. Before we knew it, residents not only came for the support, but they started to pitch in and help themselves. We had young teenagers helping to set up for the pantries. We had residents helping to take food to the elderly who weren't able to get out on a regular basis. And so this community building project did so much more than just put food on the table. It really sparked a conversation in the community about the need to get food to those who need it most, and the ways that we can all come together to make it happen. So we're excited. Clinton Hill Community Action is committed to this issue. We're excited to continue working with Greater Newark LISC and our partners at Southport Children Alliance and so many others to figure out what can we do to be helpful in this space where now, as things are starting to open up, we can see that some of the pantries are not tapping into some of the donation sources. You wouldn't believe it. We've got pantries operating in the Clinton Hill neighborhood who don't get donations from the community food bank, the state's largest food donation source. We've got pantries in the neighborhood who are not getting fresh produce and vegetables like the donations that we got from Beth Israel through Common Market. These are all relationships that we now want to share with the folks who are doing this work every day. And we see our role as a convener, bringing people together and helping them sort of figure out the supports that they need. We see ourselves as a catalyst to go out and get those resources and bring them into our neighborhood. But we also see ourselves as a larger community of learning. So we can not only just talk about the impacts of our work, but get down to the root causes of food insecurity to see if we can't swim upstream and do something about it. So I'm excited about today's film, and I just thank all of you for joining us.
Thank you so much. And with that said, we're going to have Kim Cook go ahead and introduce the film for us. Kim, on you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you well.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So listen, good evening, family, and thank you for, on behalf of Mr. Darrell K. Terry, our president and CEO of Newark Beth Israel Medical Center, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to fellowship with you guys this evening. The South Ward has been the home of Newark Beth Israel for 120 years, if you can believe that. And our commitment has always been to provide state-of-the-art medical care. But over the years, we've come to understand that we were going to need to do more than just take care of people when they're sick. Our commitment now has expanded to address factors that lead to poor health, which we call the social determinants of health. And why is that? Because 80% of your health is determined by social factors, such as housing, employment, education, access to healthcare, and as we'll be talking about tonight, access to food. So the documentary you're going to see tonight is called Food for Thought, The Path to Food Security in Newark. And it is a documentary by the people for the people. And I say that because we used high school students to interview residents and stakeholders about how they felt about having access to food, whether or not they had access to quality food, basically what they felt about the situation as far as food is concerned in the community. And so the purpose of the documentary was to get people thinking and talking, not just about the problems, but also about the solution. And if you ask why did we decide to use youth to involve them as what we called citizen journalists, it's because we wanted to make sure that we could help develop the next generation of community advocates. That way we could ensure that the spirit of self-advocacy continues, and that's very important to us. We're going to keep you healthy, but we can't keep you alive forever. So we need that next generation to be ready to pick up the baton. So as you watch this 20-minute version of the documentary, you can access the full version on YouTube. What we're asking you to do is to think about one thing you can do to make a difference. So at this point, I'll turn it back over to you guys and we can start to take a peek at that documentary.
Okay, if you could just bear with us for just a second, we're gonna go ahead and share our screen so you can watch the video Food for Thought, presented by Newark Beth Israel Medical Center. Here we are.
What I see are problems that include food insecurity and health and well-being in Newark.
There are food deserts here in Newark and the United States and all around the world.
The reason I wanted to join this project was because I really didn't know what a food desert was.
This project is important because people are often unaware of the unhealthy foods that they put in their bodies. We need to access healthy foods in prisons.
Okay.
Direct download.
Cheese and crackers. Okay, just a moment. Let me see something.
Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Technology will always be your friend until you need it most. I can't tell you the number of dry runs we did for this.
So many.
So it's like the gremlins are attacking, but we've got just a few minutes to try to fix it. Download it.
It's gonna take that.
You have your trivia.
Yeah. Let me just go ahead and play that again.
We're going to go ahead and just download the full clip of the video. It's just saying it's going to be 2 or 3 more minutes. That way we won't have to deal with any more buffering issues. We think that's the best way to go. Give us 1 second.
So Kateem, I can tell them a little bit more about working with the kids if you'd like while you troubleshoot.
Oh, that would be awesome. Please, Kim.
Okay, no problem. So we worked with high school students and they were from different schools throughout the city. So we had some folks from Eagle Academy, Weequahic High School, Central High School. We even did some of the 8th graders, like we were at Luis Marine School over in the North Ward. We got them together with a documentarian. So the good thing is that they also learned how to shoot video. They were involved in the editing process. They were involved in deciding what was important. They were filming some things on their cell phone. So very involved in the making, and they did the interviews, as you will see. There were some of them who interviewed the mayor, local pastor. It was really an effort to make sure that the kids understood how important it is to become a part of your community while they're young. Because if you introduce folks to that kind of a role and activity, they get to see that they can have an impact. So we also had a screening of the documentary that we held down at the Priory. So it was a big grand opening. We had a panel discussion. The kids were involved in that as well. And to see themselves on screen, on the big screen at that, and to have them come and be a part of, we did it like Academy Awards, you know, like when you're premiering a film, and we invited the tons of folks from the community, important stakeholders were there. It was really a good experience. And again, our hope and our reasoning behind doing that was that as much as we would like to think that we would be carrying this torch forever, and as passionate as we all are about the things that we're concerned about, we are not going to be the ones who will carry the torch forever. That next generation needs to be prepared. And if we can role model this kind of involvement for our young people and kind of teach them how to do this and take down some of those barriers they may be feeling in terms of being self-conscious and being a little fearful about speaking up, then we can ensure that as time goes on, these kids will pick up that baton and carry it for us, and then do what we hope they will do with their next generation and keep that going for them. We have to think in these times, who thought that we would be back in the times where we're following in the footsteps of our predecessors who were marching on Washington and things like that. So we find ourselves now in a position where we can look back on the generations ahead of us and find a path that how we can express our feelings and advocate for ourselves in ways that we had seen done by the predecessors. So we are hoping that we've been a good role model for them.
Yeah. And Kim, this is not the first time you guys a little bit about
I can't hear you too good this time.
Bags. The sculptures were created with recycled materials to highlight the need to reuse. They're on Broadway between 38th and 40th Streets in the Garment District.
Okay, Kim?
There we go.
This is her. Kim, you might want to hit *6 on that.
No, Kim, I was sorry. We were just trying to get rid of the background noise. But I was just curious. This is not the first time you've shown the film. What's been the reaction from others? Just to challenge this group of folks to be bold and what comes next.
It was very well received. And what we did after we did the premiere, we hosted community conversations similar to the one we're doing tonight, except in person. And we wanted to have smaller groups so that we could break things down and really have face-to-face conversations about what next steps would look like. And it's interesting because when we envisioned the project initially, back in the day, there was a big food market that used to be downtown. And we thought our vision was to have that come back again. But interestingly enough, when we met with the different community groups, the community said they weren't interested in that. The community said that they were interested in having farmers markets in each of the wards. So we followed the lead of the community. And so now we have funded 4 different hubs at different communities in different wards so that people will have local access to healthy food in their area. And that was all based on the feedback that we got from the community. So it's important that as part of our values of the social impact and community investment practice, that we don't come in anywhere and just do, that we co-design with the community. So anything that you see coming from us as part of social impact and community investment has been co-designed by community members. And that's an important value that we have.
Great. So we're going to adjust on the rest of the program for time, but we are ready to screen the film. So Grab your popcorn, sit back and relax, and let's look forward to a fruitful discussion afterwards. Pun intended.
What I see are problems that include food insecurity and health and well-being in Newark.
There are food deserts here in Newark and the United States and all around the world.
The reason I wanted to join this project was because I really didn't know what a food desert was.
This project is important because people are often unaware of the unhealthy foods that they put in their bodies. We need to access healthy foods in prisons, public schools, and hospitals, and many other places as well.
There are more corner stores than food markets, supermarkets, gardens, and I think that they should build more greenhouses, more urban gardens.
I want to see a better future for the kids here, and I want to see just great opportunities.
Food security is to be able to afford healthy food, to understand what healthy food is, also have access to it. You have to have the location where you can get them, and that location needs to be accessible. If you have to get on 2 buses to get to a Whole Foods or a place that has some healthy options, then that's going to be a deterrent. And if it's easier to go to a bodega and it's cheaper to go to a bodega, then people are going to do that.
There's one down the street. You can go downtown. You'll get a lot of kids after school come run to this bodega right here. They did have a small little grocery store down there, but it's been closed. If it was to do a ratio as far as bodegas to grocery stores, what would it be like? Maybe
like 1,000 to 2.
We can go straight, we can go down. It's a bodega on every block.
People are thinking about how there's a limited access to food. It sounds so third world. The most important thing for me, aside from not living somewhere where there's less food security, is making sure I have access to quality ingredients. The times when we ate out the most were the times when we had less money. It's hard if you don't have access to food stamps and you're kind of in that gray area.
So I grew up not far from here, and we were economically challenged. My mom raised 4 boys. She's gonna get all 4 of us on a bus, take 2 buses to get up to somewhere to get some healthy food, or are we gonna make do with what's available to us?
Food security is when an individual or community has access to safe and affordable food. So that means that they're able to access food in a way that's socially acceptable, a way that's financially affordable for them, and that they have the transportation available for themselves to do so. It's twofold in the sense that to be able to have transportation and to reach a grocery store is not feasible for everyone. Not everybody in the city has a car. You're taking sometimes 2 buses in order to do so, and that's not realistic for everyone. That kind of throws a wrench into things for families, which unfortunately leaves them shopping in small bodegas where the primary food in those places is convenient food items. So we're talking soda, candy, crackers, chips. When we're talking those kind of foods, we're talking a lot of added salt, a lot of added fat, preservatives in order to make those foods shelf stable.
I sort of look at this as a multi-layered problem. So you have one level of the problem that is the very worst, which is just not having food to eat, period, right? Then we have another layer of the problem, which is having food to eat but not high quality food. Oftentimes McDonald's will do the double cheeseburger 2 for $3 deals. And so that allows families to have access to food but doesn't come anywhere close to fresh fruits and vegetables and those things that increasingly we know you need to eat in order to remain healthy.
So here they're showing me just the guide of the types of meals that they should be eating, some of the things that they shouldn't be eating, but you can see that some of these things are the most accessible, affordable, and available for them. In her case, she works at McDonald's, so it's easier for her to get the French fries. Sometimes patients need to feel comfortable to the fact that, we can provide some assistance and help. So food insecurity and hunger, it's almost a social stigma. Many of our patients don't open up to the fact that this is truly an issue.
Level of shame that goes along with not having enough to eat in this country. There's this mythology in America that if you're poor, it's because you didn't work hard enough. I think it's tied in, to some extent, the shame we put on people for being poor. So if we use the framework of social determinants, it must also allow us to talk about things like racism. That has got a very deep and abiding history in this country that very much has influenced why certain people don't do as well as others.
You are here with me in the North Ward of Newark, New Jersey. This is my apartment where I live. The people that I live on the floor with, sometimes they'll ask for food, like, can I get rice, can I get this? So I feel like maybe people don't come out to actually say it, but people do go through food insecurity. People like to mind their own business and just stay to themselves, and telling your family, like, I don't have food at home might be a little embarrassing. They feel like, it's their family issue and they just have to remain in the family. And, sometimes it depends on who you tell, they might later laugh at you or something. So I think it's something that is private and people don't really like talking about it.
Our bodies are the temple where the Holy Spirit dwells. And so we should care about our temple, because for so long, we've just eaten unhealthy. Churches love fried food. Our African-American communities, we have cardiovascular issues, we have diabetes issues. There is a great disparity between these health issues in our communities as opposed to other ethnic communities. A lot of that has to do with not only what we put in our bodies, but how we cook our food. None of this is in a vacuum. It's all connected. Right? If you have a better income, you can purchase better food. Someone can work one job, then they have a better chance of actually coming home and cooking. They're exhausted and they're tired because they had to work 2 jobs already, and they just want to get something in their stomach so that they can all get to sleep, right, and get up and get back on the treadmill, get back on the rat race again.
Food insecurity are very interrelated. Food insecurity is not knowing where your next meal comes from, not having a sense of where's my breakfast coming. Hunger is a very different issue. I think one of the biggest misconceptions around hunger is that it doesn't exist here. I was a child who grew up hungry. I was in and out of the foster care system and aged out at the age of 17. I was a child who was in many placements, ended up living on the street after leaving an abusive foster care system, ate in pantries, went to soup kitchens, lived in shelters for a period of time until I went into a group home. So I know what it's like to be hungry. Most importantly, the most underutilized resource is always the people. People always ask me as I travel along the state, what can I do? And we can't do this alone. We really cannot. We need the community to help us.
La Casa has always provided culturally sensitive meals, and we prided ourselves in that. And it has been about providing nutritious meals that the children would eat, but at the same time would have enough variety and interest that the kids would actually enjoy it and eat it.
I'm the circular chef. My name is Nelson Mejia. I've been here almost for 7 years. For me to serve and please the rest, that's my goal.
Building community isn't just a geography, it's about the interrelationship between people and organizations. So what we're trying to do is build those bridges.
In developing countries, food insecurity looks like a person who is meager and starving and all of the stereotypes that we know of a person who looks deprived. But in the United States, food insecurity lives in the larger bodies of Black and brown folks.
Something that's really unique in Newark and in urban cities in general, it's called the hunger obesity paradox. So we see food access related issues and food insecurity, high rates of those in collaboration with high rates of obesity. It's more of a feast and famine situation. So when we do have access to food and when we do have money, we're choosing very calorie dense foods.
We know that children who actually are hungry have a lot of difficulty in school. They have difficulty with concentration. They have a risk for iron deficiency anemia, which can have an impact sort of on overall health as they grow. Here in Newark, we have a particular problem with obesity in children under the age of 3. But we know that a lot of those kids are not getting sort of a lot of fruits and vegetables and things you want, probably getting far too much of the stuff that we don't want them to eat. And what does that do? It puts them at risk.
Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the food that we have in our cafeteria. So Omar, can you start by telling me what we're having for lunch right now?
I mean, now we have fish sticks, string beans, banana.
Do you like this?
We eat it if we're hungry. Sometimes the lunch is not even cooked, it's not even done right.
If you're gonna run a school, you have to care for the students there. You have to care for the children who eat there.
All kids need to be fed at schools. Schools need to do better. They need to, 1, feed kids all day and with greater frequency. They need to make water accessible so that children are drinking water throughout the days. They also need to teach kids about how food grows.
I think it's really important to also, at the academic level, teach our kids why it's better to eat healthier or why it's better to make better choices. And then I think we could think of more creative ways to change or think about what our food safety aspect could be.
To give kids and young people the opportunity to begin looking at how to engineer their city, of how to be creative and imaginative about creating and providing things for their community that's not necessarily there now. Whether you're talking about sustainability in terms of the environment or agriculture and farming and access to food.
I created this ambassador program to expose them to urban agriculture, renewable energy, and the arts. We use the city as our landscape. We have field trips, a lot of gardening activities, renewable energy demonstrations. It takes their learning experience beyond the classroom.
You want this?
Yeah, the ones in the middle. Like, take all the ones in the middle.
I got long arms. I can do it.
Where we are now in Newark is that we're operating urban agriculture really on a grassroots level. We have to kind of strengthen our organizing skills, demonstrate how urban agriculture contributes to the local economies.
We go out into different communities, have a lot of lots, and we turn them into gardens. Growing our own food in Newark where we get access to it, I feel like it's very important because we don't use no pesticides, no herbicides. People are so used to, okay, organic, it still gotta look nice. This is really organic. It may not always look nice, but it's still good for you.
The Late Bloomer Project, which is a nonprofit started in the Westmore District of Newark, talks about engagement, empowerment, hope, resources, mentoring, peace, love, education, and community. I started this garden 6 months ago. We got this lot through the Adopt a Lot program through the city of Newark. We wanted to revitalize the community. We was having a difficult time acquiring this lot. So it took us about 5 months to get it. And then when we got it, we just started working right away.
This garden is a part of the Adopt a Lot program where I lease it from the city. Since it's an Adopt a Lot program, 1 year you can have it and then the city can say, oh, that lot is up for sale. And so we've had several gardeners to lose their Adopt a Lot leases.
The farming of the produce needs to ultimately get to the consumer. All those little steps along the way before it even gets to the consumer are small entrepreneurial opportunities. I'm talking about the residents of Newark occupying these entrepreneurial positions. There are quite a few abandoned warehouses and buildings that could actually be more lucrative and much more business friendly.
We have Arrow Farms in the East Ward of Newark, which is amazing to see this huge facility that used to be an old factory. Sometimes we talk about how tax credits are bad, but this was one instance where it's proved that tax credits were essential in really getting this project going.
Here, our mission is to build farms in cities all over the world so everyone has access to fresh, great-tasting, safe leafy greens. And it started with leafy greens, and now we've grown 300 different varieties. We believe we can grow anything. We are as much a farming company as a technology company.
One of the areas that we find, I think, extremely successful is in food and food innovation. If you look at Arrow Farms as being part of this project as well, that idea of being able to grow produce year-round in a controlled environment in all seasons is something that you can't get from an outside environment. So that's something that we believe will be an enhancement to the overarching Newark agricultural project.
This is another type of lettuce, a red lettuce that we grow, so as you can see the little mini heads. Our Shanghai spinach mixture, we created this. It's a mixture of 2 different choys. One of the things that we have here that we're growing is Japanese peppergrass, which is just a mixture of a variety of greens. Coming from Newark, you don't see a lot of fresh vegetables. Where I live at in the South Ward, there's not a lot of places you can go for fresh produce. Working here actually educated me on the difference of fresh produce. It also helped me with some health issues that I had, some personal issues that I had. It actually allowed me to change eating habits and different ways of life that I had.
It is ironic that we are able to produce a number of tons of greens every year in this greenhouse that is a mile from a customer that very well may want to buy our product, but can't because the channels through which they would access our product are simply absent or hidden within Newark. We see that, again, that the easiest place to access as a for-profit entity are distributors who are able to carry your product across a wider geography than just Newark. It is a goal of ours to forge those relationships and be able to, within Newark, and be able to sell our product more directly to folks in Newark. We know that the appetite is there. We know that people that live in Newark often go outside of Newark to buy their groceries. The challenge of urban farming really is meeting the production with the market.
One of the ways we add value to the city, to the ecosystem of Newark, is just bringing a lot of attention to the city. We've created a brand called Dream Greens, and that's what customers could buy, whether it's at ShopRite, Whole Foods, or Fresh Direct. Locally, we're creating jobs. We're helping alleviate a food desert. 40% of our employees work and live in Newark. 85% of our employees live within 15 miles of Newark.
We were trying to think of ways of how we can collaborate more on a longer term basis through a series of conversations. But we thought of this task force to help support the growth and expansion of urban agriculture and nutrition through the North region.
Our goal is to have a lot of community events around what we're doing so people know. Also to introduce healthy eating, ways to grow food indoors and outdoors, to get people to give their ideas on how we can make Newark more sustainable.
We deserve it as a people, I believe, a healthy way of life and a healthy way of eating.
Maybe not eating breakfast is why people have road rage also.
in the mornings when they were at work. So just these fun type of aspects of health, we could have here. It doesn't even have to be the old boring, just fruits and vegetables farmers market. It could be flashy and attractive to young people so that we know that these things are here. We know that this is what we should focus on. And maybe it'll drive us to kind of a different culture of thinking.
In 20 years, I see more green. I see more employment.
The ability to transform a city and transform the people in the city, their lives at the same time. In 10 years, the city is going to be completely different. We are going to have an opportunity in Newark to create a model to figure out how to develop the city economically, socially, and make it sustainable.
By 2 or 3 years, 2020, downtown look completely different. Newark, New Jersey, a place that's safe, less violence, food security, better health choices. To change the outlook of things, I believe Newark could be a stepping stone to a better future.
Wow, right. If you are still with us, let's give a round of applause for that. That was amazing. Great insight into food insecurity in Newark. Thank you so much for continuing to be online. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce our moderator for the evening. And our moderator is Yolanda Stokes, Yolanda Stokes of Southward Children's Alliance. She is the Southward Children's Alliance neighborhood ally. And she's also a COVID-19 action team member that helped us out with our block pantries for this past season. So without further ado, Yolanda Stokes, let's please clap it up for Yolanda Stokes.
Oh, good evening. That was a fantastic film. And because I recognized so many community people in it, I was so happy over here. Like, whoa, okay, I know they know what they're talking about. We've been in the trenches together. How am I sounding? Do I need to cut my video off? Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I had to cut the video. I have to cut the video off. Okay. So since you did that lovely introduction, I'm just going to move into asking our panelists to take 1 to 2 minutes to introduce themselves. So we will start with Ms. Barbara Mintz.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me tonight. I will take less than a minute. I am the Senior Vice President for Healthy Living and Community Engagement for RWJBH at the system level. I oversee the wellness programs throughout the system for both the employees and the community. I work very closely with Kim Cook in Newark on the food security initiatives that we have going on there, and I'm a part of the social impact and community investment team.
Next, we will have Emilio Panacci.
Panacci.
That's
really good.
Sorry, Panacci.
That's all right. That's a great effort, and it's not an easy name. So good evening, everyone. I'm the co-founder of the Urban Agricultural Cooperative. I'm a Newark resident. I've been involved in urban agriculture as a gardener and sort of system builder now for about 10 years. And the Urban Agriculture Cooperative has a mission densifying the local food system here. And we're doing that through not only creation or support of other urban farms, but also becoming an aggregator. So we aggregate products from various urban farmers as well as some rural farmers within our region to support. And then we do all of the kind of selling on their behalf. And in turn, we look for innovative ways to try to reach the customers and try to address some of the issues that you saw in the film. So we're excited to be part of the Robert Wood Johnson Food Hub program this year, and a recipient of their funding, and partnered with many of the nonprofit organizations that have been involved in this space for years. And we're just trying to take it to a new level of creating local food access.
Thank you. Is Ishan Ali present?
No, she is not. She did have a family emergency, and I do apologize for that. But you can go on to the next panelist.
Well, so I do want to give a big shout out for leading her food distribution efforts before COVID-19, during COVID-19, and after COVID-19. This sister gets out there almost single-handedly on Fridays distributing fresh fruits and vegetables in the Clinton Hill neighborhood. So send her some love in her absence.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Next, we will have Ali Muslim.
You have to unmute yourself, Ali.
Mute.
Oh yeah, you have to do that.
Okay, there we go. Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. My name is Ali Muslim. I'm block president, the district leader, also the parent to host of West Runyon, and it's just a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to this initiative we got going on here today.
And one of our fabulous block pantry hosts. Are you kidding me?
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Next.
Oh, okay. So since we have a couple of more minutes, I'm just going to further introduce myself. So, I'm the South Florida Children's Alliance. I am a neighborhood ally, and through the South Florida Children's Alliance, our vision is that all children have an unimpeded part to unlock their limitless potential by providing resources to the parents and encouraging them in various ways to help their children thrive in both school and life.
Awesome.
Now we will go to the question. And the first question will be for Ms. Barbara. And the question is, why is this issue of food access so important? Why should we care as a community?
Well, healthy food, I'm a dietitian by training, so for me, healthy food is really just everything. But it really is, the science is now telling us that it really is the key to good health. We really are what we eat. I think it's evident that if people have a diet of just fast food and convenience foods, then most of them are going to develop heart disease or diabetes in their lives. It is the key, and it's very exciting for me to see the research that's pointing to it, that food really is medicine. It is the key to disease management and prevention of disease. And if you look at some of this data that I mentioned, you can see that all of the healthcare and all of the diseases in the top ones in the country and all of the healthcare costs are going to diseases of behavior, which is the social determinants of health. So people that may be choosing the wrong foods to eat or not having access to healthy food are the ones that are obese or developing the comorbidities of obesity, like diabetes and heart disease and fatty livers. And now we're even seeing it in our children with the food supply that's out there. So having a grassroots initiative like the ones that we're talking about in tonight as a result of this video is very exciting to me, because what happens when your community's people are healthy, your community becomes stronger. They're more united. It was very evident in the video, I'm sure you saw, about how in 20 years from now, we are going to see a much greener Newark And as a result, we're going to see a much healthier Newark and a stronger one. It also helps people just live more happy and productive lives by taking good care of their health. So not to take up anybody else's time, but for me, it's important for communities, for their people to be healthy, because the communities will be stronger.
Excellent.
Thank you. Now, this is for all the panelists. What has COVID-19 uncovered for you about the issue of food insecurity in Newark? Who would like to do? Who would like to go?
Well, you want me to answer that?
Yes,
Sure.
Well, what COVID has done, it revealed some stigmas that go along with the food insecurities. The narrative that's been written needs to be rewritten, because to be a survivor of COVID-19, the COVID virus, and then to come home to have some food, some healthy food, was a plus for me. To have someone to care enough for me to bring me healthy drinks, to have a healthy conversation, to be able to deal and go through this COVID virus, it was very revealing to me, because it showed that people who didn't have access to any food, it magnified the food insecurities. No one had nowhere to go to get healthy food from. No one had nowhere to go any food from at all. Basically, everything was shut down. And so the COVID virus just, it kind of opened the way for the pantries, to open the way for the gardens. It opened the way for everything that was there. So in retrospect, the COVID virus, to me, and you may not understand this, was actually a blessing, because it has twofold. It helped people galvanize. It caused us to galvanize so much so that we started, the pantries came out of almost nowhere. The pantries came, and it was a need for the pantries because people would wait in the rain for these pantries.
Wow.
So the COVID virus brought us together. It was a blessing.
Thank you, Brother Ali. But also the next question goes to you.
Yolanda, before you go to the next question, Ali, you just said something that really struck a chord with me about how, as someone living in the neighborhood, seeing this pantry sort of come out of nowhere, it was almost a godsend in a lot of ways for folks who really need help and support. If I had flowers to give, I would give the biggest bouquet to Milan Sledge, the program officer at Greater Newark, who brought this opportunity to us. Milan, if you could just take us back, right? Because when you and started talking to me about this food pantry, I was like, girl, what are you talking about? And just, if you could just share with folks just like the vision and the sort of opportunity that you saw, and just how we could all come together and support folks in need during COVID-19.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Katim. The
virtual flowers.
And the virtual microphone.
No, the bouquet is owed to you and your team, and just, all of our partners at the table. I think, to be honest, I just latched onto the idea. I think I would give another bouquet of flowers. I'm gonna call her out to Rodney's, because it was I don't even know if she planted the seed, right? I don't even know if she knows she planted the seed. And it goes so back, right, to just hearing from community, and it's just holding that up and just not being able to, let it fall on deaf ears as far as what community needs were. And, it's centered around food, right? And I think, I'm glad we're giving, although Miss Ali is not here, right, to Katim's point, it did not begin with COVID, but what COVID did was compound so many of these issues that, we've all, have recognized, right, in this beloved city of ours of Newark, and as it relates even more micro, right, in the neighborhoods that make up Newark. And so when it comes to affordable and fresh food, right, at LISC, national, and then especially at Greater Newark LISC, we recognize that healthy foods and access to them and the equity, right? All behind that is a critical ingredient to literally the health of our communities and the sustainability and the viability of our communities. And so back in March, right, just to give a quick snippet of where we came from back in March, it was, calling on and tapping into our partners in Clinton Hill. And so thankfully we had the groundwork of this Clinton Hill Coalition. Many of the partners who are on this call, are a part of that coalition. And so just from a high level, it was just a matter of seeing those pieces and trying to, connect them. And in the height of the pandemic with rapid response and innovative response, it was identifying the infrastructure that we already had in the neighborhood. And so Ali Muslim, Block Club president, right? I just want to shine the light, recognizing that infrastructure in the neighborhood from the grassroots up. And we were just behind the scenes and, trying to strategize and support with that as far as activating and tapping into those partnerships that already existed. And so it was a matter of, we need fresh produce, what donations, what partnerships, right? And the Beth and Kim Cook just making it happen. And so I think it was, it's bigger than me. It was, just want to shout out Katim and Renata, see you guys together right there. Calls on calls and remaining nimble and flexible, but ready to roll up our sleeves. You know what I mean? And so even the way we designed it, right, it was a risk, but we were trying to respond to the need as best we could. And the residents we know being locked in place, even having challenges with getting to traditional pantries, right, that do exist, but how do we bring these resources closer to home and literally on a block level? And so you guys made it easy, right? And so we created, we tapped in and created an action team, and we were on calls 2 times a week at minimum, right? And so that's how it happened. And this is really just the culmination of that. And so, and it's really just the beginning, right? And so we know we want to stay active and community need with food. And it's just a matter of tapping into those and continuing to innovate. So just thank you, everybody. And this is incredible work. So thank you.
And the beauty of the work was community-based organizations and residents coming together. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Yolanda.
Thank you. Thank you, Milan. So the next question goes to Brother Ali. And the question is, since you have been distributing food in the community, what do you think we can do to take the stigma away from people asking for help to get food?
Well, to press forward and to stay readily available, and to, when you in those lines getting food, some people, as you notice, have this shame about them, some. But then as the weeks go by, the food is so appetizing. It's not, what do you have in the bag? Well, I don't want this, I don't want this. It was so appetizing. You wait in the rain for the food and you get it, you're like, wow, this is nice. Thank you. I said, well, it's important, man, to cater to the people. Give them what they need. You give them healthy food, good food, and they appreciate it. So the conversation with the people to let them know you're not demoralizing them because you need food. It's a situation. And that too will soon pass. So we have to engage the people, not just give them food, give them conversation, give them some food for thought, give them some verbal nourishment. And what happens is that they start to appreciate, you see it in their face. Next time they show up, it's like, I'm glad to be here. Whether it's raining or shining, they're glad to be there because they know they're going to get some good food and possibly some good information and good conversation.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. We'll keep that in mind.
That's good. And might I add that Ali Muslim's experience, I've heard conversation from individuals saying, he just made you feel so comfortable. Yeah, as well as, our other Black Pantry host, Dr. Austin, is here as well. And, they just wanted to come back week after week. And, that that goes a long way, making people feel comfortable.
Yeah. And let me just tell a short story about our experience running a pantry, working with the block host, and my good friend, Dr. Robert Austin. So Brother Ali Muslim mentioned that we really took time and care into the food options that we included in the bags that went out. We even surveyed the participants to find out what did they need most. And when we started to get feedback on things like, we need more meats, we need more fresh fruits and vegetables, we switched up. But I remember when Dr. Austin called Rabatha and said, now, listen, the last week's was a good run. But we need to drop the Rice Krispie treats and put some granola bars in the... Dr. Austin is there if he wants to say anything. I think some other words. I just cleaned it up a little bit.
There he is. It was that egregious. You can't talk Dr. Austin.
So Yolanda, you better keep going before we get in trouble.
Yes.
I do remember you guys bringing that up in our weekly meetings. And I'm just thankful that you guys were able to make that switch seamlessly. Barbara and Amelia,
yeah.
How can we encourage healthy food choices when people are struggling to put food on the table? Whether that's because they are working all day and needing to do it quickly to feed the kids, or not being able to access fresh fruits and vegetables.
So Amelia, you want me to go first? And
yeah.
Then, okay, and I'll get to you up. So I think the key to getting folks engaged around healthy eating is education. It's one of the things we as a healthcare system, and certainly Newark Beth Israel Medical Center has always been a leader in. Not to do a PSA on us, but we truly believe that if we're going to take care of our populations that we serve, we have to arm them with the education around why eating the right food is so important. But also to that end, you find that you're educating folks on what they should be eating. And then if they don't have the very food you're teaching them to eat is a problem. So you need both. We have found, I certainly have discovered through all of my work in food security through COVID, that the distribution of food really is the issue to access. The Garden State is the Garden State. We have lots of food. We have wonderful farmers, both in the traditional rural areas, and we have them here in Newark, and they're springing up more every day. We're creating, as Kim Cook mentioned, food hubs throughout the city of Newark, making them look like each one of the wards, because we all know that the wards are sort of cities unto themselves. So we want to make sure that we're culturally competent, if you will, in the foods that we're offering, and then the education that we're giving based on what folks are going through on a daily basis. So it's not always necessarily just giving them the food, it's also educating them and having our folks educate us. And so, Emilio, I'm sorry, I hope I didn't take anything that you wanted to say, but thrilled to be working with you in this project, and it's all yours.
No, that's okay. I always have a new thing to say, Barbara, so that's all right. No, I just wanted to mention a lot of great points have been made. Just want to give some perspective from urban farmer and someone who is involved in running markets and dealing with farmers who are the producers from our side of things, both before COVID and during COVID. And that is that we're really interested in building an economy that works. Now, we know that the pantries have played, as you've heard, a really important role. And we have supported and actually are supporting some pantry efforts right now in terms of getting them the fresh food they need and making sure that, especially during the height of the disease, that we were getting food, helping organizations that get food directly to people who can't get out. So that's the emergency food world that's emerged in Newark is really astounding, as like everybody has said. Our organization, though, also wants to keep farmers in mind, and that's both urban farmers and rural farmers, because if we can't create a system in which we're sustaining them and they're sustaining us, then we're going to collapse. This local food system is going to collapse, and in a very real way. And there's a reason for several years now why it's been hard to recruit farmers to come back into Newark like they might have been decades or generations ago now, selling their fresh, healthy food directly to people. And it has everything to do with supply chain and cost and their time being spent where they can get the highest dollar to feed their families, which is understandable. So I just wanted to mention from an urban farmer's perspective, when you're talking about access and the Newark agriculture movement, is I think that we see creating choice. Like the question is, how do we create these healthy food choices? Well, building urban farms, even though they're not going to be big enough to feed the entire city themselves, they do create a lot of education, a lot of engagement, and they kind of connect people back to the idea of food alternatives. So they see something different, which is really important. As the film pointed out, you know, most of the time we're just inundated with bad choices for food around Newark. And is that really a choice at that point if we're so inundated by bad foods? Farmers markets, the film talked about that, and that's something that we found that from a community standpoint, especially with a large population of foreign-born residents who are used to farmers market shopping, it's really made an impact. This year we added online ordering for pre-ordering to be safer, so you could order your food from several farmers and then we pack it for you and have a pick up and go kind of model. And just the rural urban linkages. I mean, we're doing everything we can now to try to get farmers from northern New Jersey and our local urban farmers to be selling directly to Newarkers again, and also into our institutions. Because when we're in a city with so much poverty and so many social constraints, like the film pointed out, we know that it's the hospitals and the school system and the nonprofit organizations and the pantries that are really going to have to serve the healthiest food if we want to impact the most people. People rely on those institutions here more than they do in other communities. And so we're doing everything we can to connect healthy farm food, both local and urban, back to those institutions as well.
Yeah. Yolanda, let me stay with Emilio and a follow-up question. Emilio, can you tell us how community gardens kind of fit into that urban agricultural ecosystem? And what have you seen communities do with a lot of the vacant lots in their neighborhoods in terms of activating them as community gardens that help with food insecurity issues?
Yeah, sure. Well, that's where myself and a lot of my peers, where we all got our start, and that was just adopting lots or working with a church or a partner to just have some land access and get something going. You know, like everything, we need that visibility. We need people need to see their food grown, especially young people, especially the schools that we partner with. So the community garden is a great opportunity for that. And then, you know, one interesting thing that happened this March and April when COVID came along is everybody was home and everybody was limited in their activities and everybody was concerned about their health. So the interest level in having your own backyard garden or community garden went way up. And we realized that more than ever, you know, what a lot of us have been saying for several years now, which is that we hope the city can find ways to make more gardens more permanent and more gardens on more blocks, because as soon as people, you know, have a little time to be home and look at what's in their neighborhood and look at what's in their fridge, people want to get into growing food. Yeah, they're both, you know, they're the tangible side of things. Even if a lot of our healthy food ends up coming from farms that are within 50 or 100 miles of Newark, because like Barbara said, we're surrounded by great New Jersey farmers with great healthy food. But it's the urban farm that can be that kind of trusted voice and that kind of delivery mechanism for people to get involved with healthy food and then to seek more of it.
Thank you, Emilio. So our last question is for everyone, and it is, what is something that everyone can do to address food insecurity in Newark?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Ali.
Well, and alluding to what Emilio just talked about, the gardens are just, it's an oasis. These urban gardens are oasis. And once people realize that they're there for the community, we'll see some difference. See, a lot of times people just want to to receive and not put any work in. A guy wants to put his hand out, wants something in his hand, but he don't want to go and pick the bottle next to the garden. He don't want to pick the trash up, it's in the garden. He don't want to do anything. He just want to get the benefits, reap the benefits of the garden. So I say to everyone that once we start to really engage in these gardens, and that can sustain us to a degree. Like in the garden next to my garden, Tim Williams Community Garden, we have these tomatoes, corn. We're trying to grow melons and beets and carrots, and they're free. Collard greens and mustard greens, they're free. It don't cost you anything to come by and pick some of these things up. You know, and through these transitions that we're making, we're going to revisit the garden and try to do some different things in it. But we have to always be ready to assist the people. You're here for a reason, not a season, but a reason. And your job is to help the people. No matter what, help the people. And the seniors, which I am an official senior citizen, we all need we need help. You help somebody. And in helping somebody, you help yourself. So to determine paying it forward, help the guy next door. Give them something. Invite them to the garden. Simple.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Barbara?
Yeah, I just was going to echo what Ali said. I honestly think we just have to be kinder to each other. I think it's one thing we're learning through all of this, that we really are our brother's keepers. And it doesn't matter where you're from, or whether you're from Newark or not. I mean, we all need to take care of each other, and we all need to check on our neighbors to see if they don't have food. Some people don't even like to, like you had mentioned, there's a stigma attached to it. And so some people don't even like to think about or even mention that they may be hurting or asking for help. People are hurting right now. And I think if we stay committed and we don't take our foot off the gas and we keep this initiative going, even if we get a vaccine in the next couple of months and things go back to hopefully not the way they were as it relates to this particular issue, because I don't want to know that children are going to bed hungry, or that that seniors aren't getting the foods that they need. We need to help. We need to help with this access issue, and certainly as a member of a healthcare organization, it's sort of it has to be our commitment to teach people how to stay healthy through the choices that they make and the food that they eat.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well said, Barbara.
Thank you.
Emilio, you want to chime in on this one? What's something everybody can do?
Yeah, and I think a lot of good things have been said. I just always tell people to really insist on, as much as possible, on having choosing local foods and local business when they can. I think that's really important. I think we all find ourselves buying products that are not made here and not made with our own hands and made with our own health and community in mind. But the more we can kind of tip the scales there, and especially in the food realm, there's so many reasons. There's so many documentaries and books out there about how unhealthy it is for the earth and for ourselves to eat food from really far away. And we have this great food here locally. The more dollars that we put into local farmers and the supply chain here, whether that's people working at a farmer's market or starting their own small business here, the better. So really consider that in your food choices.
Awesome. Well, listen, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is the first of many conversations to come. We're new players on this block. We know that there's been a lot of hard work that's gone into trying to help folks with accessing food and addressing food insecurity in Newark, and we want to work with you. In the Clinton Hill neighborhood, we're really committed to joining arms with the other food pantries that are in the neighborhood. We had Jackie in the chat. She asked, how can everybody come together, share best practices, avoid duplication, and identify financial and human capital resources that we can share? That's exactly what we want to do. As I opened up, we saw that there were about probably 8 or 9 pantries operating in the Clinton Hill neighborhood. We created a map, and most of them faith-based organizations and closed down when COVID came. But it was interesting when we reached out to the community food bank and said, who are you servicing in this area? They only had relationships with 2 of them. And so our role as an intermediary is really to try to help connect folks who are distributing food in the community, access the resources that they need to be successful. In our partnership with Greater Newark LISC, and the support from the Victoria Foundation, we've been able to collect a treasure trove of data. The Cornwall Institute is a partner with LISC and Victoria on their Thriving Neighborhoods initiative, and we surveyed in the first round over 170 residents who participated in our weekly food pantry, and on the second round, we probably got up to about 120.
Yeah.
Asking a wide range of questions from what types of things the folks need the most, what are the biggest barriers, and just to highlight a couple of data points, we asked as we were kind of wrapping up the block pantries, because that ended in August, 85% of folks say that they were worried about getting food in the future. So just because this great project had an end date to it, the need still exists, and we're committed to working with folks in the community to make something happen. So thank you everybody for tuning in. And as I said, this is the first of many conversations to come on how we can address food insecurity throughout the city of Newark, and in our world, the Clinton Hill neighborhood.
Thank you so much. And
thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Renata?
Yes.
Tomorrow from 10 to 12 at the Garden, we're going to have something going on, okay?
Okay. Yep. On West Runyon and Clinton Hill.
Emilio, stop by.
Yes.
Word. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good one.
All right. Later, guys.
Great job, you guys.
Great job, Yolanda.
Thank you. That was fantastic.
Okay.
Have a great night.
Great, Stephanie.
Okay, let me log off.
Golly, great job.